Okay, so welcome to this revision presentation for higher level for your paper 3 questions on linear equations and a little bit about price elasticity, demand and elasticity. Okay, so the first thing you need to be able to know for your exam is finding the quantity demanded or supplied at different prices using the information you have here. So these linear equations. So all we have to do is substitute where there is P, okay, we add the price. So here's what I did earlier. So where it's 0, we just go 100 minus 2 times by 0. Okay, using this gives us 100, so the quantity demanded is 100. Then the next one, 100 minus 2 times by 1 is 2, so it's 98, and so on. And the same for quantity supplied, we just substitute this in, so we got minus 30 plus 2 times by 0, so obviously 0 is minus 30, so we got minus 30, and so on. So that, if you get that in your exam, that's going to be very, very easy marks. So you just substitute the price into formula where P is, and you're ready to go. Okay, the next thing you need to understand is where the variables come from, so the A, B, and the C, D. Okay, so for quantity demanded, the linear equation is A minus B. Okay, so the A is will change if there's a non-price determinant of demand. Okay, so this actually shifts the whole demand curve to the left or right, as we'll see in a minute. The B variable is the responsiveness to a change in price. So that's the slope, the steepness, and it will change the steepness depending on the elasticity. Same over here for C. C will change if there's been a non-price determinant of supply that changes. Okay, so there's more substitutes available or something. And here is the responsiveness to a change in price. So again, the steepness, so the elasticity of supply. So just moving on to the next slide. As we can see here, if we change the A variable from 800 to 600, the curve, demand curve, shifts from D1 to D2 because there's been a change in demand. Okay, where if B variable changes from 60 to 30, okay, this is saying that there's been a change in responsiveness of the elasticity. So it still starts from the same Q-intercept, but the steepness changes, okay, from there. So it's becoming less in this case. So this case it was 60, it's becoming less responsive. So it's becoming more inelastic, okay. So if that was changing from 60 to 90, it would be becoming more responsive. So it would become more elastic, okay. So move on to the next slide. Supply, exactly the same with the supply. If we change the C variable, that will change it will shift the supply curve, and if we change the D variable, it will just change the slope, as we can see between S1 and S3. Now it doesn't come from the same point because it starts off as a minus figure, so the Q-intercept will be somewhere down here, okay, and we'll go on to P-intercepts and Q-intercepts in a second. Okay, so in your exam you might be asked to change the equation because something's changed. So for example, a report gets released from that shows that Dragon apple juice prolongs life by at least 5 years. Demand increases by 20 litres at each and every price. What is the new equation? So we simply just change the 100 to 120. Okay, so what happens if the other variable changes? What will make that change? So remember, that's to do with the elasticity. So any factor that changes the elasticity will cause the B variable to change. So for example, there's 10 other fruits that have got exactly the same report, so therefore there's more substitutes now. If you want to prolong your life, there's lots of fruits that will do that, fruit cheeses that will do that, so therefore it will become more responsive, so more elastic in price. So that B variable increases from 2 to 6. So again, if you get that in your exam, it should be dead easy. So basically the curve either becomes more steep or less steep. Okay, it's all to do with the elasticity. So as you saw on the previous diagrams, there was something called P and Q intercepts. So effectively, if I just flick back, the Q intercept is where the lines meet the quantity axes, and the p-intercept is where the lines meet the price axes. Okay, now for our exam we need to make sure we can work these out. So for the quantity demand at the p-intercept, for both quantity supplied and quantity demand, is we just set quantity demanded or quantity supplied to 0. Okay, so as we can see here, 0, and then we just balance the equation. So 100 minus 2p, so we add 2p to that side. Okay, as you can see, we've added that to there. Then to get the p onto that side, we need to divide both sides by 2, so 100 by 2. So the p-intercept for quantity demanded is 50. Okay, so again, we do the same thing for the p-intercept for quantity supplied. We set the quantity supplied to 0, and then we change the equation. So minus 30 plus 2b, add 30, puts 30 on that side, then we divide both sides by 2, gives us the p-intercept for the supply, which is 15, which is going to be useful as we move on in this task. The q-intercept, a little bit different. So for quantity demanded, it's always going to be whatever the a variable is. Okay, so the 100. But we can still work that out, so we can set the price to 0 just to make sure it does work. So 100 minus 2 times 0 equals 100. And the reason why it's 0 is because it's the price when it's 0. Okay, so when we cross the quantity axes at the bottom, the price is going to be 0 down there. So that's why we do that way. Okay, so that tells you how to do the p and q intercepts. So moving on, it's really important to remember the units that the question's talking about. So when we give our answers, and we need to make sure, for example, it's in the right currency, so euros, and for example, the quantities in the right units, so litres, kilograms, whatever it might be. So just be careful in your exam. As it says here, the units are likely to be in thousands, so, or millions, which means if you get an answer of 50, the real answer will be 50,000 or 50 million, most likely, depending. So just make sure you put in the right units so you guarantee the full marks. Okay, so that was a very short recap of some of the main points. In the next video, we're going to cover working out the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. But just as a recap, we've looked at the linear equations and how to work out the formulas by plugging in the price. We've also looked at what the different variables mean. So a change in non-price determinant or non-price determinant of supply is A and B, A and C. For B and D, okay, it's a responsiveness. This shows us essentially the elasticity and how steep the demand or supply curves are. And this was illustrated in these slides. And then we just reminded ourselves what this looks like when we change these equations. Okay, so the different variables. And then finally, we just reminded you to be careful that you put the right units in. Okay, so that's part 1. There's going to be another couple of parts to this. I hope that was useful. Thank you.